Hey, what's up, my fish tank guys and girls? So one of the most popular videos on my channel is performing a freshwater tank water change. So today I'm going to be showing you guys the saltwater side of performing a water change in case you have a saltwater aquarium at home or are considering starting one. Now, before I talk about frequency and get into the water change itself, there are a few things you're going to want to do before you start removing water from the aquarium. Now, the first thing I like to do is make sure that my physical filtration media is relatively fresh. You could probably put in a new filter pad or filter floss if the one that you currently are using is getting kind of dirty. The reason being is we're going to be putting a lot of the yuckies in the tank, the detritus and the organic material. We're going to be pushing that into the water column, and we want that to be picked up by our filtration media. So you want it to be relatively clean because we don't want it cycling back into the tank. So once you have that taken care of, the pre-water removal stage of cleaning a saltwater aquarium includes using a turkey baster to blow off all of your rock work. What this is going to do is it's going to kick up all of the detritus and other things that have settled within your rocks that you don't want decaying and breaking down in your aquarium, and it's going to force those into the water column to be picked up by your filter. In addition, you're going to want to use a mag float or maybe a sponge to clean off the glass of your aquarium. You're going to have algae building up over time. Hopefully, if you do regular maintenance, it won't be too bad, but you always want to clean off your glass before you start your water change. Again, this gets algae and anything else that has formed over time into the water column so it can be picked up by your filters. Now, after you've done these two steps, you're going to simply want to let your tank run for a while, let your filters do their job, pick up the stuff that you've forced into the water column before you actually start removing water from the tank. So while that's happening, let's talk a little bit about frequency. People often ask me, how difficult is it to keep a saltwater aquarium? Is it hard? Is it really challenging? And typically my answer for them will be no, it's not really all that difficult. It just requires a much greater time commitment over a freshwater tank. So what I typically recommend to people is you're going to want to set aside 5 minutes a day to check the aquarium, check the levels, clean off your glass, simple things like that. And then for a smaller tank, I would say 30 gallons or less, you're going to want to set aside probably an hour a week to perform a water change. Now, you're not going to have to do weekly water changes forever. Once your tank is a little more mature, you can space that out, but I would still recommend performing a water change every 2 to 3 weeks. It's not like a freshwater tank. Some freshwater tanks, after they're mature, you can basically go without doing water changes for an extended period of time. But with a saltwater tank, because of the sensitivity of the fish and the coral that are in your tank, along with wanting to keep it looking very nice, you're going to want to maintain a regular maintenance and water change schedule. So now that we've let our filters do their job, a lot of the stuff that we pushed into the water column has been picked up by your filter floss or your pads. Now we're going to actually start performing our water change. So similar to a freshwater aquarium, you're going to want to find yourself a nice gravel vacuum, such as the one as I'm using here. You're going to want to start your siphon and begin removing water from the tank. Now, I have a little bit coarser sand, little larger particles. Very, very fine sand is kind of difficult to vacuum, but that is why I go with coarser sand, because it's easier to vacuum and get things that have settled into your sand bed up and out of the tank. So similar to the freshwater aquarium, what I like to do is I like to kink the hose. I like to bury the gravel vacuum into the sand and then unleash the kink and watch all the crap fly up through your gravel vacuum. Now, because you're dealing with smaller particles as opposed to a freshwater tank, especially if you have the larger rocks as part of your freshwater setup, you're going to then want to re-kink the hose and let those larger particles of sand settle back down onto the sand bed. Now you're going to want to do this all throughout the sand bed. You're going to try to want to hit all the spots, especially where your fish hang out, because that's where you're going to find a lot of the fish poop and the stuff that you want to remove from the tank when you're performing a water change. And just keep going all around the tank until you feel that you're not seeing large plumes of organic material flying up through your gravel vacuum. Now, I forgot to mention previously that typically with a saltwater aquarium, you're going to want to do a water change of 10 to 20%. So if you have a 10-gallon tank, that's 1 to 2 gallons. You guys can do the math. So once you have that amount of water removed, we can stop with a gravel vacuum and move on to cleaning out the other components of our saltwater aquarium. Now, with most saltwater tanks, you're going to have some sort of filtration media that should also be a part of the water change process. Now, for this particular tank, I have filter pads, I have granular activated carbon, and I also have Purigen, along with biological filtration media in the form of marine pure gems. So what I'm going to do with these things is simply remove them from the tank and then sort of swish them off in my discarded tank water. Now, you should be draining your tank into a bucket, so you can simply remove them and put them into the bucket, swish them around before putting them back into your rear chambers. Now, just as a side note, before putting them back into the rear chambers, this is a good opportunity to take your gravel vacuum and clean out those rear chambers, especially the bottom, as things will settle over time. This could be waste, discarded fish food, maybe even just smaller particles of sand that have made their way back into the rear chambers. But you don't want those things decaying over time because they will contribute to rising levels of nitrites and nitrates. As for your filtration media, filter floss and pads can simply be discarded and replaced. Most forms of biological filtration media are never replaced and simply require kind of the cleaning off or the swishing that we talked about previously. Chemical filtration likely needs replaced on different timing schedules, but more than likely you won't have to replace them every time you perform a water change. So read up on what you've put into your tank and decide on a regular replacement schedule. So maybe, for example, you're going to replace your carbon every other water change or every 3 water changes or whatever it may need to be based on the product you're using. So after you have everything back in place, you're going to want to replace the removed water with brand new salt water. Now, some people are asking me, can I use tap water? Can I use well water when it comes to making salt water for a saltwater or reef aquarium? The short answer is no. You definitely want to use RO at the very least, and ideally you want to use RODI water to make your salt water with. Saltwater aquariums are a much more sensitive environment as opposed to that of a freshwater tank, and you're going to want to make sure that you give yourself the best chance of success, which is done by using RODI water. That removes all the extra metals and different things that are found in tap water or well water and helps you to keep down things that are not desired in your tank, like nuisance algae. So now that we've let the tank settle, everything is looking very nice and clean. Don't be surprised if your corals are a little more open than normal or puffed up, because doing a water change is kind of like taking a shower there and getting all clean, right? So they're showing off to the rest of the inhabitants of the tank. They're feeling puffed up. They're feeling good. They're feeling energetic. You know what I'm saying? So once again, I am the Fish Tank Guy. Thank you so much for checking out this video and my channel. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. If you have not yet subscribed here on YouTube, please consider doing so. You can feel free to leave a comment in the comments section below. Let me know what you think about the water change process, or if you have any questions. And that's pretty much all I've got. So until a future Fish Tank Guy video, I will see you guys soon.